Alrighty, party peoples of the interwebs, it is Sunday, which means it's time for your pre-Viva and Barnes Law Extravaganza car vlog. And I was going to do this car vlog on X suing Media Matters for America, and Media Matters for America filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, alleging jurisdiction issues, failure to state a claim, and the judge came to the conclusion that no, the publications were intended to be heard by people in Texas, and yes, based on the allegations of this lawsuit, there are sufficient allegations to justify a claim, so your motion to dismiss is dismissed. I was going to do the car vlog on that. I won't. We'll talk about that tonight because I've got other stuff on the mind, and it is Russiagate 3.0. I'm sitting here thinking, and I put out a tweet, and I said I'm just going to put out a video because it's a different format. It will reach different audiences, effectively summarizing in more detail my tweet. You have to appreciate how insidious what the DOJ and the FBI is doing right here. First of all, appreciate how fundamentally corrupt the DOJ is under Merrick Garland, fundamentally corrupt as the day is long. They come out with this bombshell of an indictment last week. For those of you who have been living under a rock, the indictment basically alleges that there is Russian interference in American elections by way of two Russians who are allegedly employees of RT, which is state-run media, funneling, laundering upwards of $10 million into a Tennessee-based company, which we know what it is because it was so thinly veiled in the indictment. Everybody knows who all of the players are. $10 million being funneled by these RT employees using a fake persona of a dude named Gregorian that allegedly doesn't exist, but by my interview with Taylor Hanson, might very well exist. Funneling $10 million through this Tennessee company that is known to be Tenet Media, founded by Lauren Chen and her husband, who are Canadians who sought the freedom of America and are now bearing the brunt, apparently, of what some might believe to be a weaponized, corrupt DOJ. The right-wing commentators who are unwitting pawns in all of this, who have made the headlines now for being the Russian stooges, promoting Russian propaganda, financed by Russia, and they didn't even know it. We know them to be Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and Benny Johnson are the three most notable, who have come out to Twitter and said, the FBI's contacted us and said we might be the victims of a crime, and Tim Pool has announced his intent to seemingly cooperate with the FBI. It's always tough to tell if it's a troll or if it's legit. But I'm sitting here thinking how bloody insidious and manipulative the DOJ is right now. In the indictment, they do in fact allege that the right-wing commentators are potential victims of a fraud. They didn't know that they were getting paid with Russian money, as if that's somehow some form of a crime. Bear in mind, the two crimes alleged in the indictment, FARA violations, Foreign Agent Registration Act, as if anybody here is acting as a foreign agent, except maybe, I don't even know, the two RT employees, they're alleged to be acting as foreign agents, but what do we know other than the fact that even based on the allegations of the indictment, what they were doing was apparently burning $10 million to let right-wing conservative commentators produce the content and commentary they would have otherwise produced anyhow, because even under the indictment it alleges that there was no uniform messaging or editorial oversight. Set all that aside. The media is running with the narrative now that Rubin, Poole, Benny Johnson are unwitting propagators of Russian propaganda because they were taking Russian money. The indictment paints them as unwitting potential victims. And they came out respectively and said, yep, FBI's contacted us. Apparently we might be the victims of a crime. Appreciate, it's like narcissist level deny, attack, reverse victim and offender type manipulation here. The DOJ comes out and says, yeah, these people might be the victims of a crime, thus coercing them. Basically, under no uncertain terms, they have to come out now and say, yeah, we are victims in all of this as well, because they don't want to be accused of being players in it. If they don't come out and say, yeah, we are not victims, or we don't even think there was a crime here, they will be accused of being complicit and potentially face legal repercussions, or Lauren Chen and all of her entities have been banned from YouTube. Taylor Hanson, the employee of Tenet Media, had his YouTube channel shut down. They could face those consequences. So they are effectively strong-arm, manipulated, coerced into coming out and saying, we might very well be the victims of a crime, and in so making that statement are effectively tacitly ratifying the allegations such that the media now gets to say, yep, they've basically confirmed some form of Russian interference in this election. Why do I say that this is a mistake and that they've been strong-armed into doing it? They're basically tacitly saying, yep, there seems to be a crime in this indictment. We don't know who this persona Gregorian is. We don't know where the funds came from. And if past is prologue to anything, let's take a little trip down memory lane back to 2016. First question is going to be, in this particular indictment, how the hell did they get all these DMs, Discord messages? How did they infiltrate Tenet Media to the degree to which they did? Flash back to 2016 and a certain FISA warrant that was unlawfully obtained based on Kevin Kleinsmith, attorney for the FBI, falsifying evidence that they then submitted to a secret FISA court to obtain an unlawful spy warrant against Carter Page that they then used to go spy on the Trump campaign as a whole. That entire Russiagate hoax 1.0 was predicated on a certain Steele dossier. A certain Steele dossier, which the FBI leaked to Yahoo News so that Yahoo News could publish the findings of this bogus Steele dossier, so that the FBI could then say, look, there are reports in the media of Russian infiltration into the Trump campaign, so we need to get secret spy warrants. The Steele dossier? Who financed the Steele dossier? It's like we've all forgotten about this. The DNC and Hillary Clinton financed the Steele dossier. They financed the Steele dossier, then had their attorney slip it to the FBI, who then funneled it to the Yahoo News, who then published it so that the FBI could rely on it to get their secret spy warrants, yada, yada, yada. Who financed it? DNC, Hillary Clinton. Did they disclose that they financed it? Hells to the bells, no. They actually unlawfully, and I would say feloniously unlawfully, concealed their financing of the Steele dossier. They put that charge under other. You remember what they just indicted Trump for and convicted him? 34 felony charges for mislabeling entries for the hush money payment. They charged and convicted Trump for what Hillary Clinton and the DNC did. And what did they get? They didn't get an indictment. They got, I think the DNC got a $112,000 fine and Hillary Clinton got an $8,000 fine. A slap on the wrist. But apply this to what's going on right now. Back in the day, Russiagate 1.0, the Steele dossier, financed by Democrats, leaked to the FBI by Hillary's lawyer, Sussman, who was then charged with lying to the FBI because he said, when I met with the FBI and slipped them the Steele dossier, I wasn't representing a client, except for the fact that he went and billed the Clinton campaign for that very meeting with the FBI. So this is criminality through and through back in 2016, Russiagate 1.0. And now where are we? 8 years later, and we're with Russiagate 3.0. They come out with this indictment, a persona, a mystery persona Gregorian. We don't know who he is. We don't know where this money came from. We know it didn't come from Russia, even based on the allegations of the indictment. It came from, I think, Turkey, Europe, elsewhere. So we have funds that we don't know the provenance of these sums being funneled through these entities into Tenet Media. We don't even know if Lauren Chen sincerely did not know or suspected or believe that this was Russian money, or if they were just under the impression that this was some rich European who wanted to help build a right-wing free speech platform empire. And you have the DOJ now manipulating, coercing, basically putting the Rubins, the Pools, the Benny Johnsons in a position where they are forced to say, we are victims or potential victims of a crime, thus ratifying the underlying allegations of Russian interference, and we don't know who's behind any of this. And if past is prologue, I strongly suspect, I think I would know who's behind this if 2016 is any indication of 2024. And they make them do it. And then they, coerce them or induce them into sitting down with the FBI, like Tim Pool is contemplating doing. Like, oh, if we're potential victims of a crime, well, they're going to think it's suspicious of us if we don't sit down and talk to them. After all, the FBI and the DOJ is going to say, you're potential victims of a crime. Wouldn't you want us to help you clear your name? Wouldn't you want us to help get justice for this underlying crime that we've alleged in this indictment, not knowing who's actually behind it? It could very well be, if past is prologue, it could very well be the DOJ or the Democrats that are behind it. And they're going to get them to sit down, get them to cooperate, thinking that they are somehow, on the same side of this when they are not. I'm pontificating. Rubin, Poole, Benny Johnson, they are as much threats to the Biden administration, to the deep state, as any alleged Russian interference. They might very well have been the object of this entire scam from the get-go, but they didn't get them this time around, so let's depict them as the potential victims. Manipulate them into sitting down and talking with us, and then we'll ask them some questions. Oh, interesting. Did you have a license for this, they might ask. Did you have a registration for that? Oh, What entry did you put in your books for the monies you were receiving? Oh, you mislabeled it? Oh, well, didn't we just convict Donald Trump on some trumped-up felony from a misdemeanor that would have been time-barred in the first place? Oh, you think that they are looking to Tim Pool to help them? They've got all the information under the sun. They were in their Discord servers. I don't think they need a damn thing from Tim Pool. But they could have been the objects of this from the beginning, and they didn't get them on the Russia money because they didn't admit somewhere that they're taking Russian money. Maybe we'll get them on the investigation. Maybe we'll find that they had some improprieties somewhere in their business dealings. Maybe they didn't pay enough tax. Who the hell knows? The bottom line is there is nothing that the FBI could use that they don't already have from Tim Pool. And they've gotten the three of them to, under duress, effectively ratify, if not legitimize, the allegations of this indictment, which are just allegations for the time being. We don't know who these RT employees are. We don't know where the monies actually came from. But they've gotten them to do it. And they've gotten them to do it through manipulation, through intimidation. And they're not anybody's friends in all of this. And to the extent that Russia interference to get these content creators to provide the commentary they would have otherwise provided, well, you understand then that the threat is not the Russian interference. It's the commentary that these conservative commentators would have otherwise provided free and enlightened, as I'm sure they did. I know Rubin. I know Tim Pool. I know Benny Johnson. These are people who, my threshold is, I'd let them babysit my kids. These are good people. These are people who you couldn't buy. And whether or not people are going to say, my goodness, they were certainly accepting a lot of money without asking questions, they were licensing their content for what they think it's worth. And by the way, Tim Pool is worth a lot more than that. Dave Rubin is worth a lot more than that. They were licensing their content, which they were having on their own platforms, without interference, without editorial control. And if anyone thinks that the Russian interference for financing right-wing commentators is the issue, you don't understand that the bottom line is the right-wing commentators are the issue, are the target, and might very well have been the object of this. They didn't get them this time around, so let's find a way to manipulate them into sitting down so that we can get them on the investigation, a la Mike Flynn, a la Roger Stone. I'm trying to think of others who have been jailed as a result of sitting down and talking with the FBI. And I'm sweating like a pig in here. This is the risk of doing a car vlog where you get heated on a hot Florida day. Bottom line, those are my thoughts. This stinks to high heaven from the get-go. And by the time it all comes out, by the time we find out who got this file started, who was involved in it, where the monies were coming from, by the time we find all of that out, we're going to be long past the election, and the damage will be done because you got your stooges on the internet right now looking at Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin, Russia, Russia, Russia. Idiots out there. And you got the media right now running with the headline that has been legitimized by the Rubin, Pool, Benny Johnson victims of a crime. It's been legitimized, and now they're going to run with it, and they're going to say this election was interfered with beforehand, and if they don't get their results, they're going to say, well, we can't ratify this, we can't certify this, and who the hell knows? Maybe they're going to try to do what they impeached Donald Trump for having tried to do the first time and charged all of his friends for RICO interference, getting an alternate slate of electors. We'll see where it goes, but the bottom line, stinks to high hell, in as much as they ask you to sit down, and you know that you are their enemy. You got to think long and hard before doing it. And with that said, before I forget, actually, are you subscribed? Do you have your notifications turned on? Do it right now if you haven't. Drop a comment in there. But most importantly, exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life. And Sunday night, 6 o'clock, see you tonight. And now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah.
The difference is we don't engage in the politics of personal destruction. The fact is that if we just talk about the issues, for example, I think it would be interesting to people in these districts to know that the Speaker wants to take away the guarantee of Medicare. So I think talking about issues is where we should be. What is the difference in one person being Speaker than another? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, you call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and if they see it's reported in the press that this, and this, so they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic, and it's self-evident. But I think I'm worth the trouble, quite frankly. I love the fray. I'm not disrespectful of people's views. I respect any positive things that people want to say, or even negative, as long as it's constructive.